All right. What's up,
Peter Strong.
Chris?
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. We are surviving here, um, and starting to have glimpses of thriving, but certainly surviving the inevitable storms that is entrepreneurship, that is franchise ownership, that is simply business and life. So it's been a while since we've been on a pod together. Nice to see you again. You had a great trip. Well, you had a trip to check. Your fighter, Mallory, and still champion. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Um, and then you've gone through some battles with me as my partner, not only in Streamline Business Media, but in SprayNet. And I think these are fascinating. I think they're worth talking about because it's so easy to, on the outside, to look at entrepreneurs and be like, oh, it's so easy. It's so fun. They're so brave. They're so tough. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. No, there's a tremendous amount of suck. And you either have to embrace the suck or get through the suck or whatever. I love the Marines saying, what is it? Pain is weakness leaving the body, right?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we've expelled some weakness here.
Yeah.
Let's tell the latest story of running a painting franchise.
Sure.
Let's tell everybody how our crew decided to quit.
Yeah.
What led up to them quitting, the manner of which they did it. I'm gonna throw it to you. So you were there. I just got the call and got mad. You were actually there. So let's hear it, dude. Tell
That's
me.
right. Okay.
Let's go down.
Let me set the scene. We were halfway through doing a job. We were doing my kitchen. And the reason we were doing my kitchen is because I wanted to use this job to bring on some on-the-job interviews, right? It's in March. We're getting ready to potentially scale to 2 teams. And so I need to hire a few more people. It's been really slow all winter. And we really bent over backwards to get our team work all winter. We were cutting deals. We were, whatever we had to do, we were giving discounts. We were as accommodating to our clients as we possibly could be during, from basically November, December, January, February. And we kept our team. They got 40 hours a week, every single week. And we ended up with just 2 people on the team at the end. We had a big team last summer, and then some people quit. We ended up removing a person, and then we had a team of 2 during the winter, and we really broke our backs to make sure our team had work. And so then as we're just getting ready to scale to the busy season, right, our exteriors are much busier than interiors. So we're getting ready. We're excited. You're booking all these deals. You're going on lots of bids. And so I'm doing these on-the-job interviews with just all these people that I found online, like their applications. And so they're coming and working with me, working with the team a little bit. And during this, I had an interviewee show up, and I introduced him to our 2 current team members. And then during the interview, right, I walked in, we were doing some talking, doing some masking. I wanted to see how he could work. And during that day, our 2 current team members decided to go to Subway, right? And it has always been our company policy. Like, the standard is that you bring your lunch and we all eat together. We take a lunch together and we eat it, but we do it on site. Like, there's too many variables. If you leave the work site in the middle of the day, 30 minutes ends up being 45. There's traffic, blah, blah, blah. So we just don't leave the work site. Right? You bring your lunch, you show up, and that's always been the standard. So our team decided while I was doing interviews that this would be a good time for them to dip out to Subway. And so when I come out of the kitchen and they're out there, they have their Subway, I'm like, hey, I just need you guys to stay on site. Like, I'm doing interviews right now. We're about to start painting. I would like for you to, just be here during this. And they're like, okay, and so then the guy I'm interviewing is ready to start. I think we were priming some doors. And so I asked both of the team members, they can both paint. And I said, hey, I need one of you to come, just be with me on this interview, see what you see how this guy paints, see what you think of him. And, this was, I think 1 o'clock ish. And they were like eating at that time, they're eating their Subway. And they're like, well, right now? And I was like, well, I mean, that's when we're doing the interview. So as soon as you can. And they're like, oh, well, we still have our lunch. And I was like, okay, well, how much time do you have left? And they're like, 20 minutes. Okay. It's a long time to make somebody wait. So I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll go back and finish the interview. So I go back in the house. They're sitting in the truck eating their sandwiches. I go back in the house. We paint. I talked to the guy. He's great. We ended up hiring him. He's the man. So I finished talking to him, and I come back out, and the truck's gone. And I'm like, what? Where are they? Like, what happened? So I text them. I call them. Nothing. Radio silence. And so then I think I wait around. I'm working on the job site, lining up my next interviews. It's been an hour. So I call you, and I'm like, dude, they left. They took the truck. Don't know where they are. They didn't say anything to me. They just bounced. And I called him again after an hour. No answer. And I think that was when maybe you tried to call them, and then they didn't answer. And then you said, like, hey, we're going to start calling the police. And the hospital was like, we don't know where you are. I think that it was at that point that one of them responded to you, 2 or 3 hours later.
I think it was longer. I think you called me and you told me what was going on. And so I reached out, and Lois reached out, radio silence. And then I think we gave it about 4 hours. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to call the police or the hospitals and see what's up. And so that's the text that actually got them to respond, one of them to respond. And her response was something to the effect of, I hate working for Peter. I quit. And essentially something like that. Right. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, okay, well, I need my truck back, and I need our company stuff back immediately. And then more silence. And then eventually she said, hey, you can come get the truck tomorrow. And we left it at that. And so I went and got the truck tomorrow. It's now I'll give you my side of this, because I went from doing my thing, selling, just being a business owner, to, the crew walked off the job and stole the truck, to, they're not calling me back. And so my initial reaction is rage, right? My initial reaction is, you quit and steal my stuff. Like, I'm going to find you and choke you unconscious. That's step one, right? Now, obviously that's an inappropriate response. And so you never make a decision when you're in that mode, right? Just like you don't make a decision when you're hungry, you don't make a decision when you're angry. So giving that 4 hours, the appropriate thing was, hey, we're calling the cops, and we're calling the hospitals. And we knew they weren't in the hospital, but we were trying to give them a little space. And we actually made space for a little grace here. So reduced the urge to choke them, increased the urge to offer some grace and get our stuff back without having to call the cops, without having to hunt them down. And we did go and get the truck the next day, unspoiled, thankfully. But yeah, it hurt, because we did bend over backwards. We gave them work when there was no work. We made up stuff for them to do. We paid them their hourly to go hang doors. Like, we bent over backwards to take care of them. And as we do, and it's our policy to front load goodwill to everybody we're working with, employees, partners, power partners, clients, everybody. And it isn't always reciprocated, and that's to be expected. But tell me a little more about how all this made you feel. I mean, everybody knows you as a tough guy, right? Jiu-jitsu black belt, MMA guy, coach. But to pretend that this stuff doesn't hurt would be total BS, right? Because this hurts even the toughest people. So tell me, all right, so they stole the stuff. They walked off the job. They pieced out. They didn't respond. Now what? What's going on in Peter's brain?
So there was two things happening simultaneously. There was absolutely the emotional response. There was me getting just as pissed, and like I know where they live. I'll go there right now. Like, let's figure it out, right? Um, Also, there's this strategic response of I'm managing a business. I have other interviewers coming. I have a job site that's half done. We need to keep working on the job. So I'm balancing these two things, and I'm super grateful for just having been in so many. Fighting is so stressful. It's by far the hardest thing I've ever done. It's the scariest. It's just the most confronting thing that I've ever done. And so having been in the fire so many times, it has allowed me to be able to recognize it, hold space for it, but not identify with it, not go down that path. So I credit a lot of my martial arts training for my ability to respond strategically instead of emotionally. But man, it hurt. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you know, there was an immediate response of like taking it personally, and like, after everything I did for you, this is how you choose, right? That was like, you make it about yourself, and then you think about it, and you're like, man, I have to deal with this person for this one incident. This takes like an hour of my time, right? They have to be this coward for the rest of their life. Like, this has nothing to do with me. You're a coward, and you choose to take the path of least resistance. You take the easy way out in everything you do, right? How you do anything is how you do everything. So this is how you want to be. Like, this has nothing to do with me. I know what I did. I know how much we tried to help them. And I know that their choice burned that bridge, but also they have to live that life for themselves forever. That's a life sentence unless they decide to figure it out and try to change it. But that's an uphill slog for sure. So it's not just these people. This is a common thing that we've noticed. Like, people don't tell you no. They don't tell you, oh, I don't want to talk to you anymore. They just ghost you. They just peace out. It's too bad because there's a lot lost in the ability to have constructive confrontation and to be able to advocate for yourself and say, hey, man, I really don't like working for you. Here's why. Here's what I would like to change. If you can't change it, then here's my 2-week notice. Please tell me that. Like, go ahead. But that's just not really the society we live in these days. And it's too bad, but it is the reality, and you have to be able to confront the reality. You can't live in your little idealistic, well, this is what they should have done. Like, and they did exactly what they had to do. That's who they are. So they had no choice but to be that person in that moment. But it was tough for sure. And it definitely was a painful lesson.
Yeah. It was painful. It's part of it, right? Before we bought this, in our due diligence, when we thought about entering the property service space, we went over some other private equity guys' stories where people stole trucks or stole equipment or did something gnarly at a client's house. This is just the nature of business, right? So these things happen.
Specifically, probably in the blue collar business, like, we're not hiring like super well educated, like highly credentialed people. They're hourly employees. Like, that's probably, there's a reason that they're not on salary at some high paid company right now. You know what I mean? But like, we don't need them to be. We just need them to show up sober, on time, and paint the cabinet. It's right. A relatively low bar, but that also attracts, more than just the cream of the crop.
Well, it's a relatively low bar to what, right? Because in the space of painting, it's quite the high bar, right? Because we are doing on-site chemistry, we are catalyzing, adding retardants, accelerants. In terms of in the spectrum of painting business, this has the highest, and it has the highest standards. So it's fair to say that, and we do pay a little better than a traditional
Yeah.
painter does on average, not always, but on average. So,
Right. Yeah, and
but yeah,
because of that, we hold a high standard, and it is not. I wouldn't say it's easy to meet that standard. That's not the point. I'm not trying to be the easiest manager that you could ever work for. I'm going to hold you to a high standard. We're going to pay you well, and there's room for upward mobility, and we plan to scale. And like the sky is the limit. There's no cap. You want to buy your own spray net franchise? Great, let's do it together. We'll be limited partners. We'll help you. We'll give you everything you need. All you have to do is prove to us that you are worthy of that opportunity, right?
Yep.
So, this is great news after the fact. Like, we want people who are not a fit, a cultural fit, a values fit for the way we do business. We would love for them to self-select out. Now, in halfway through a job during an interview, stealing the truck with no notice. Not my favorite way for you to self-select out, but you self-selected out. Thank you. I'm grateful for that, because now we have a guy who is an incredible painter, amazing communication, open to learning, even though he's been doing this longer than both of us. When you have somebody sitting in a seat that they don't belong in, not only does that hurt your company, but there's also no room for the right person to sit in that seat, right? Like, they're taking up space on the bus. So you got to get the wrong people off the bus before you can get the right people on the bus.
Well, yeah, and it's worth saying that your intuition, you did say to me multiple times, something's off with these two, right? Something's not quite right. Something doesn't add up. And so you couldn't articulate it exactly, but you knew something was up, and something obviously was. They were obviously not trustworthy. They were obviously, not loyal, not appreciative, and not willing to be held to not only a high standard, but just a standard of sticking around, right? Or finishing a job. Half joking here, but I'm glad, of course, we're not going to get violent with people, right? Of course. The best martial artists, when given the chance in a street fight, turn and run.
Get out,
right? We bounce out of there. We run. And I'm not saying I'm a good martial artist, but I would run long before. But the joke I was saying is, if I had to fight somebody in front of you, then I'd be even more nervous, because you might take my brown belt away from me when you saw how I perform in a street fight. So you might see that double-legged single transition to the back and go, you think you deserve to keep that brown belt around your waist? So I got to keep my brown belt.
Yeah.
And then the other joke, and it's not a joke, but they say it we say it in the gym, right? Is when you get into a fight, the winner goes to jail and the loser goes to the hospital. Like, nobody wins, right? Of course we're not, but the initial reaction when someone spits in your face or rips you off or steals your truck or screws you on a deal or whatever, the initial reaction is reasonable to be like, oh man, that kind of primal reaction is, but again, wise people never make decisions when they're hungry, when they're angry, when they're in those moments. And we got, within a week after this happened, we were grateful it happened. Of course, we weren't grateful that day, and of course, we got a little grateful that we actually got the truck back without it being, soiled. But within a week, we were stoked because we had replaced them with better, more knowledgeable, more reasonable employees, right? And it just happened that the guy you were interviewing when they bounced turned out to be a great fit culturally, skill set, the whole nine. And he's poised to move up.
He's already doing it. He's managing multiple jobs at once. He's, recruiting his own team members now. Like, I trust him. Like, I've seen guys he's brought on site. I've seen their work. I've managed the job site. I'm there at the beginning. I stop in during the day. I'm there at the end, and I'm super impressed. So he's earned the right to bring his own team. And I just tell him, like, here's your paint, and you got 3 days. And he's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
That's
I've told you this story, but it's worth repeating here. One of my buddies he's a very successful roofer, runs a great roofing company. I think he's run multiple roofing companies. We were in Hawaii together. We were studying Laukahea in Hawaii together. And he gets a call. His truck went out of zone and his truck was heading out of state. And then his truck is heading, this is all in an 8-hour, 10-hour period. But an employee stole the company truck and the company credit card and headed to Vegas, right? And this is just part of it. Sometimes this happens. When we were looking at doing some deals together, we were watching a podcast with two private equity guys who were buying, I believe they were buying pool routes. And they were growing pool routes, stabilizing the pool routes, and then selling them in a roll up to a bigger private equity investor. And they had all sorts of stories like this, and they just let it roll off their back, right? Now, we didn't let it roll off our back, but next time it's not going to take us a week to appreciate this happening. It's going to take us, 3 days, maybe a day. But this is, it's just part of it.
Well, there's a tremendous amount of power in recognizing that it is your choice how long you want to stay angry about something. Like there's, of course, the initial reaction, right? And then if you decide you want to ruminate it on it for a week or a month or a year, or you want to never let this go, that's your choice. Or you can recognize the hurt, right? Of course that hurts. Of course you feel betrayed. You went bent over backwards to try to help somebody and they backstabbed you. Okay. So now what, right? And this shift in your mindset of being able to recognize, one, that it wasn't about you to begin with, and two, you can get off that ride anytime you want. You don't have to stay on the pissed off train forever. Just, acknowledge it and move on. That's a superpower, because otherwise you're just along for the ride for as long as your emotional mind decides to carry you. And it's a roller coaster all over the place. I have gained a tremendous amount of insight from my mindfulness training, specifically around recognizing those thoughts as just thoughts. That is not who I am, but that is a thought I am experiencing, and I get to decide how long I want to experience that or when I want to let it go. So I'm, like you said, I'm super grateful for it. I wasn't grateful in the moment. I wasn't grateful the next day, but a week later, we were stoked about it because we got somebody way better. And it also was a wake-up call, because what it helped us recognize was that there are no shortcuts. You cannot just hire your way into running a successful business. You have to do every part of your business and do it well enough that you can train other people to do it for you. And then you have to manage them and hold them accountable and correct when there's mistakes. And, we hired people that had more painting experience than us. So we just kind of put that off on them. And then we were like asking them if they were doing a good job. There's no way that's going to be a successful model. So I have to know everything on the site. And now I do, right? I had to do it for, the beginning of May. It's been 6 weeks. It's been a crash course of 6 weeks of me being on site all day, every day, doing the setup, doing the prep, doing the masking, priming, painting, tearing everything down, putting everything away. I can do all of it. I couldn't, 7 weeks ago. And so for that, I'm super grateful, because this forces me to become the type of manager that I really want to be, which is somebody who can hold a high standard and also help people learn the job, move up in their position. There's a path all the way to the top if they want it, but they can't go ahead of me. I have to blaze that trail. I have to know how to do all of it. And you had a pretty similar experience on the sales side. It felt great to just be like, hey, I'm going to have somebody else do this now. But it didn't work, right? And that's just how it is. Like when you're in the beginning of buying or building a business. Like, you just have to do it. You have to get in the thick of it for a long time until you're ready to delegate that stuff off.
Yeah, I think we both got over our skis. Listen, it's easy to look at the model, look at the org chart, look at the business plan, and say, hey, these are the seats. We fill the seats. You know, and in NLP they say the map is not the territory, right?
Yeah.
Well, the spreadsheet is not the business,
No.
right? The business is handled with boots on the ground. And no matter how cool your math is, right? How fancy your differential equation is, how detailed your pro forma is, that's not the business. That's the map. That's not the territory. And so we tried to take a shortcut by staffing and building, scaling before we were ready to scale. I'm really glad we've taken a step back. I've taken over sales. You've taken over production. We're in it. We're walking the walk. And now the company's stabilizing, right? Now we're booked, whatever. We're already booked another 8 weeks, 7 weeks out. We're probably, by the end of today, we'll probably be booked through the end of June. This is the beginning of May. And we've had to let some people go, and some people chose to go by way of truck, happened to be our truck. But, there is no shortcuts. Every shortcut is a long cut. And that's true whether it's in music. I knew this when I was teaching music. That's in jujitsu. That's in fighting. That's in business. That's in everything. Every shortcut you think you found, it's a long cut, right? Now, of course, there's efficiencies, and there's leverage, right? You can leverage human capital. You can leverage equity. You can leverage debt. You can leverage technology. That is not a shortcut. That's simply leverage. Big, big difference. So, thanks for the lesson so early in this game. We're already grateful all this stuff happened, that we had to, move on from certain people, and certain people aggressively moved on from us. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Gratitude for all of it. And it was tempting early because we came from successful industries. It was tempting to just move ourselves into that top successful spot way before we were ready to do that. And we've really kind of had this operational shift from it being like, I should be managing this big team. We should have 3 teams and a production manager, and you should have a whole sales team and a marketing team. And we have shifted away from that. And our kind of our mantra lately is just move the needle every day, right? There's no good. It's just, this is what we're doing. Like, don't argue with the reality of where you are at, because it only causes your own frustration, your own resentment, your own struggle and suffering. If you'll just accept that what you need to do right now is paint this cabinet, what you need to do is make this phone call. That's all, right? It's just do the next thing today in this moment. What's going to move the needle for your business? And then you stack as many of those days on top of each other as you can. And it's get in the game and stay in the game. It's consistency over a very long time. That was, I've known that too. It's not that I don't know this stuff, but you have to get these reminders. And, I love the way you explain it. Like, first you feel like the flap of a butterfly wing, and that's the universe, like, letting you know. And then you feel like the bee sting in your eye. And then you feel like the mountain of crap piled on top of you. And it's like, yeah, man, wake up. This is your life. Like, you got to do something about it.
Yeah. Well, we're doing something about it. We're taking shots on goal. And listen, every shot that you don't take is a miss. Every shot that isn't on goal is a miss, right? The goal, there could be no goalie. And if you're taking a shot and it's not on goal, then it's a miss, right? So on the sales side, and you've done something similar on the production side, I've identified what I consider the 4 most important shots on goal. And I've ranked my performance on those shots on goal from 1 to 10, because it's an easy system. I've thought of myself, in terms of the grades, because that was ingrained in me. And so the initial lead follow-up, is that a 9 out of a 10 or is it a 5 out of a 10, right? Am I calling them within an hour? Am I calling them within 5 minutes? Are they getting a text message? What, how soon am I getting them on the phone? The next shot on the goal is the conversation we have on the phone. The next shot on the goal is the quality of the consultation I give and, in person. And then the fourth shot on goal is how's the follow-up after that consultation? And if I'm scoring, if I hit a 10 out of 10 on the first 3 shots at a goal on goal, right? 10 out of 10. And then I don't follow up at the end. Well, that's 75%, and 75% is a fail, right? If you're not hitting a B plus, if you can't hit a B plus in whatever endeavor you're doing, then I don't think you should do it, right? At least for me, I'm not going to do anything unless I can be at minimum a B plus. So if I've got 4 shots on goal, I better have 9, 9, 9, and 9, right? Or 10, 10, 10, and 8, or 8, 10, 10, and 9, right? But if one of those is a 5, we've got a problem. If one of those is a 0, we've got, it won't work. So I actually, in my book, where I track, analog all the potential clients, how I interacted with them, how I can be of service to them, I score each of those things, and it's on the front of the notebook as well. So you'll see the numbers, and I know I lost a deal a few weeks ago because of that last one, because I didn't follow up as well on the end. So as long as these shots aren't in goal, you've got a chance to make this work, whatever this is. In our instance, it's this company, right? It's this painting company. So there it is, right? Shots on goal. And if you can't get them on goal, you either get them on goal, you find something else to do. If you can't get shots on goal, find something else to do.
Yeah. One of the things that we've kind of discussed is don't wait to judge what you're doing until you're hitting consistent shots on goal, right? If you're a 9 or a 10 on your initial reach out, you're a 9 or a 10 on your intake call, you're a 9 or a 10 on your bid, and then you're a 9 or a 10 on your follow-up, and you're still not closing, okay, then we should look into how is your reach out, how is your bid, what are you saying? But if you said it 3 days late, it doesn't make any sense to analyze what you said. You're missing the point, right? The point was that you missed them by 3 days. There's no amount of wordsmithing that's gonna make up for putting that person on red for 3 days. Like they're awesome. So we do want to always be refining. We're always trying to improve our process. We're always looking at it, but you have to make sure that you're taking good shots before you worry about, what the shot actually looks like.
That's right. If you get a lead and you call them 3 days later, that's a 0 out of 10. Dare I say, if you take a day to call them back, that's a 0 out of 10. So there's no data to judge, right? Like you're not even not only are you not taking the shot on goal, you're not even on the field, right?
Yeah.
If you don't show up on time to a consultation, 0 out of 10, right? Again, nothing to judge, nothing to refine. You're just not even in it. You're not even taking a shot. So I like that analogy. We're athletes, we're sports guys. So it's easy to take a look at that and then judging it by, on a 1 to 10 scale. Everybody's been getting grades in their whole life. So are you, and at the end of the day, if you're getting a C in your business, so if you're getting C on your sales, you're not going to win. You're not going to have the life you want. You're not going to have the sales you want. You won't make the money you want. Your business won't thrive. Not even close.
That's right. I mean, why are you even doing this, right? We've talked a lot about this, and this is actually a perfect segue, because one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about was, why are we doing these businesses? I'm not obsessed with paint. I'm certainly not obsessed with social media, but we run companies that traffic in paint and social media. Why? Well, the reason is because we see the potential upside of owning a company that can then, that's your path to financial freedom. But if you are getting a C in it, it's really hard to connect those dots of how you're ever going to break free from just having a job that happens, you happen to be the owner, but you're just working in the business all the time.
Right. There's a big difference between having a business that is essentially a job for you, which is what I've done a lot, right? I've done my whole life. I've started these little businesses and they were just a way for me to make money, maybe me and a few friends to make money, or me and a few partners. And as I mature into my entrepreneur, the entrepreneur I want to be, which I've been I started my first company in 4th grade. So I'm taking the long route on getting good at this stuff. But as I mature and we have multiple businesses and I'm a sponsor or general partner in multiple deals, the performance and the actual scoreboard matters far beyond making enough money for me to live. Far beyond that, right? If that's it, if that's all that matters, then you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a business owner, you're a guy who made himself a job, right?
Yep.
A business, in my humble opinion, everybody can look at it different, but in my humble opinion, a business is something that makes multiple people their living, serves many, many people to improve their lives, your clients' lives, right? Clients are number one. So, and then something inevitably that has, well, maybe not inevitably, ideally, that has some value, enough value that somebody else is willing to buy it, right? Some agency value. So for an exit, those are the big ones. Do you have you built something that you don't need to babysit every second of every day? Have you built something that has, a huge fan base, right? A huge fan base are your clients. Your clients' experience from the first call to the last Google review they leave you when they're stoked at the end. That's the most important part of the business. And then finally, are you building any agency value where somebody might see it, or hopefully multiple people see the value of your business and you have multiple candidates to buy it from you in 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the road. That is like we said, that's your only chance to be truly wealthy, right? To have real value out of a company, not just have a job. This is why you do it. If you just wanted the easy road, get yourself a job, go make $100,000 a year, do whatever you're going to do and help somebody else get really rich, Right. So here's your chance, right? Here's your chance to do, something far greater than just having a gig.
Yeah. I mean, look, I had a really good job. I was fulfilled in it. I enjoyed it. I'd made decent money. There was so much about it that I really loved. There's a lot about it that I miss, honestly.
And then you met me.
And I met you and got bit by that entrepreneurial bug and saw the vision of what it could look like to not just have a job, but to have a business owning an asset that is making money for you while you're asleep, while you're in Hawaii, while you're doing, spending time with your kids. Like I have a time to this. My wife is 34 weeks pregnant, so I have a baby on the way. I want to be able to spend time with that little guy, and there's no real safety or security in running in having a job, right? And it feels counterintuitive. You told me that at first, and I was like, man, I don't know. Like that's already a successful business. Why don't you explain it far better than I can? Why is it safer to own a business than to go get a job?
Yeah, I mean, remember the perspective I come from, right? I've been starting businesses my whole life, right? Since 4th grade. So how old are you when you're in 4th grade? 10? I started mowing lawns when I was 10. By, 5th grade, I was making $100 a day mowing lawns. So I was hooked, right? But I think it's safer to own your own business because you're in control. You have agency. What are you going to do? Fire yourself, right? When you have a job, it's the owner who decides, the stockholders who decide if you continue with that job. Your manager's decision, your boss's decision. It's somebody else's decision to whether you have a job or not. When you're an entrepreneur, your decision is, do I keep working this? Do I do something else? Right? Now, again, I am almost chronically unemployable, right? I can't stop starting businesses, buying businesses, being a sponsor or general partner. I can't stop. I'm never going back. But again, I think it's far, far safer because I'm in control of it. My actions have far more impact. And I don't plan on firing myself anytime soon from any of my companies. Maybe I step away, maybe I sell a portion of it, maybe I sell the whole thing of these various deals. But that's why I think it's safer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great perspective that I just hadn't really considered. I mean, that you're kind of your job is always on the line as long as you're working for somebody else. What I really like about what you're saying is that like you're really taking on as much of the responsibility, taking control, taking agency of your own life. Like you're not just this passive observer of what's going on, what's happening to you. If your business fails, it's on you. If it succeeds, it's because of you. And, like you said, if you want to make somebody else really rich, then just do a really good job at your job, right? If you want to turn that onto yourself, I think it's way harder to buy a business, to start a business. We've done both, right? We bought a franchise and we're bootstrapping a media company at the same time because why not? But it's much more challenging to do that. But I didn't come here to take the easy route anyway. I love the challenge. Like even as hard as all of this has been and as frustrating, as lonely, like that's a big thing that people don't really talk a lot about. I couldn't imagine doing either of these businesses without you, because at least we can talk to each other about how frustrated we are and how challenging it is and blah, blah, blah. Doing it by yourself would be just, I couldn't imagine. It'd be soul crushing, but it's still lonely because very few people really know or care what you're talking about. Like I can't really call up a lot of my friends and be like, hey, I think we might have sold like one more client. We might be past our break even point here. That just doesn't really mean anything to them. But if you're an entrepreneur, you know how important your break even point is. Like that's the first step to any business is first you have to cover all your costs, your fixed costs. Then everything above that, according to your margin, is your profit, right? So you got to break even. That the excitement that comes from hitting your break even point in your month is lost on a lot of people, except those that have really put it all on the line, who scraped up every penny they found, dumped it into a business that they don't really know anything about. Or, there's a bunch of ways to do it, but this is just our story, right? This is what I'm going through. It's harder than I thought it would be. It has taken way longer than I thought it would be. It's more frustrating than I thought it would be. And it's much more fulfilling than I could have ever imagined, right? Like the fact that I get to, like I'm taking control of my own life. I'm taking agency. I'm not a bystander of what's happening to me. And I'm going to have a real shot at financial freedom. I'm going to have a real shot at spending a lot of time with my kids when they're young, when you want to spend time with them. And we're going to do a lot of cool stuff. We're going to help a lot of people along the way. So man, I'm stoked for all of it. Like I couldn't be happier with all of the challenges, all of the frustrations, all of it. I'm just grateful for every part of it.
Well, good. It is it's always surprising for people who are just starting their entrepreneurial journey to feel how much struggle there is. And it's even surprising for me, who's been starting businesses my whole life, to be reminded of what a struggle it is in the first year. The first year, nobody has it's very, very rare that you have any great success year one. I don't know of anybody having great success year one unless they're bullshitting on YouTube to get clicks, right? Unless they're renting, not even a real jet, but a fake jet to take pictures of themselves pretending that they're slaying it, right? Or they're renting a Lambo for an hour to be like, look at me. All that is bullshit, right? The reality is it's a grind. It's hard. It's frustrating. It's lonely. It's better for me. It's way better than having a job. I tried having a job. It's not my thing, right? That's not a knock to anybody who has a job. Everybody's got their role, right? Everybody's got their appetite for whatever, you know, whatever blessings and whatever struggles you want in your life. I mean, it's up to you. We choose to go this route, and I agree. It is. I know that there's always challenges and risks with partnerships, right? I've done plenty of partnerships. I've been a limited partner. I've been a general partner. I've had to sue people. I've been ripped off. I've made money. I've done well. I've had hard times. And I still choose to use partnerships. Because you need to leverage other people's brains, other people's skill set, other people's money, other people's equity, other people's debt, other people's, support, having somebody who will just sit there and listen while you're ranting and raving about something, whatever you're upset about that day. Right. I believe in partnerships. I'm getting better and better at selecting partners. Still not an expert at it. Still, have made partnership deals that I'm not happy about. But so far, our 2 deals, I'm stoked. I'm stoked on you. I'm stoked on the upside of these deals. I'm really stoked on the stabilization of them, which we are clearly progressing and stabilizing them. I have questioned, and I think it's quite good advice not to do too many things at once. And yet here we are, with 2 deals going at once. And then, of course, I have, I'm a general partner in some real estate stuff and some other stuff, and a limited partner in some other stuff. It's just, this is the path I've chosen. I'm sticking with it. What am I going to do? I tried to have a job. I went and worked for some really smart people.
Yeah.
And it's just not my thing. I learned from those gigs, but and they all agreed too. When I worked for them, they all agreed that I'm better off working for myself. Right. And I'll take that as a compliment. They might have meant it as an insult. I don't think so, but I am clearly better starting things, running things, partnering with people who want to do the same. And here we are, man. We're in it. I mean, to the parallel to your fighting career, right? This is, fighting self-selects so easily, right? You go join a jiu-jitsu academy, and if everybody in the room is murking you constantly, you're not going to go get in a cage fight, right? You're going to wise up because you're in a room with 40 people who are destroying you, right? Business, on the other hand, everybody's in business, right? They either work for a business or they run a business. Maybe they run a nonprofit, but it's similar to a business. But when you get in a cage, it's just you in a cage, right? And I know the good fighters say it's not just me in there. It's me and my coaches, me and my training partner, but it's just you getting your face punched in, right? Well, in business, we're getting in this cage together, right? Yeah. You're getting in this cage with a partner who can kick people in the back. No, just kidding. But, you have somebody. Back kicking Chris is what that would have been my MMA name.
That's your fight name.
Well, but you see my point, right? It is, you don't have to take all the licks, right? You just went on a fight trip and I held down the ship, right?
Yeah.
Someday I'm going to go on a vacation again. Not that yours was a vacation, but someday I'm going to go on a vacation again and you're going to hold down the ship.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. And I appreciate somebody having my back. I appreciate somebody who can answer the phone or call a lead or deal with something while I'm picking up my kids, right? While I'm exercising or doing whatever I got to do to take care of myself or my family, So I'm pro partnerships. Obviously partnerships that work. There's risk in every direction. I'm choosing the partnership risk as opposed to, I know the solo risk, and it's the risk of going insane. Yeah. That's a legit risk. There's a mental health crisis that people don't talk about in entrepreneurial circles, in business owners, because like you said, it's lonely. So, I mean, imagine if you were doing one or both of these deals alone.
I can't imagine.
Be gnarly.
I think it was Alex Ramosi that said something like, it's lonely because I'm too successful to hang out with the people that I used to hang out with, but I'm not successful enough to hang out with the people that I want to hang out with. And so you're just kind of stuck in that middle ground, of like just slogging it out. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with the partnership. I really think that, like, you and I clearly have very different skills. We have different, obviously, backgrounds, but just we're better at different things. Like, I've gone to try to do like the BNI sales stuff with you. I don't enjoy it. I'm not as good at it as you. And I've seen you try to paint, and it's terrible. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, like, if you find the right people, and we loved that book, Rocket Fuel, because it talks about the visionary and the integrated roles. We feel really confident that we're both squarely in those roles, and because of that, we're able to leverage each other's strengths. We're able to kind of compensate for each other's weaknesses. And it's kind of like that 1 + 1 = 3 equation, where we're getting far more done than either of us would on our own. And even if we were both working like tandemly, but not together. So I think it's a really beneficial relationship, partnership. I'm learning a ton. I'm having a lot of fun. That's why we're doing it, really. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, none of this is going to matter. Like, nobody's going to remember SprayNet or Capital Stewardship or Streamline Business Media. Nobody's going to remember Chris or Peter. So we might as well enjoy our time while it is our time. Do things that we're proud of with people that we like and enjoy. Do things that make a difference, that help other people, relieve suffering, provide opportunity. There's so much more to it. And I think if you are willing to take a step back and just remember that kind of big picture, it makes making that extra phone call a little easier, going out to the bid, finishing the job at 7 p.m. because you don't want to come back the next day. Like, you remind yourself of why you're really doing it. And I think that's like, I think that's really what has helped us on the Streamline Business Media side to just continue to be willing to share our journey, because we know we're not alone, but it is a lonely endeavor to be an entrepreneur. So we're putting it out there for people that maybe are thinking about doing a deal like we're doing. Maybe they've already done it. Maybe they're well past us, and they'll reach out and say, "Hey, listen, you idiots, do it. I've been here. Help us. We're open to it. Like, please reach out." I'm loving all the mentorship and relationships that I've built just in the past couple of years of being an entrepreneur. The people that have been there are the first ones to help. And what you notice is the people that have never done anything are the ones that have all the criticism, all the critique, what I would have done is like, yeah, man, but you didn't, and I'm in it. I'm doing it. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of you. I'm grateful that you took me on as a partner, and this has been awesome.
Well, yeah, you never listen to people who haven't done the thing you want to do, right? They're just online blowhards, or, just cowards who won't get on the field, right? So those folks are really easy to ignore. One thing that it's worth saying, because we're documenting this process through Streamline Business Media, right? And so that, the micro influencer approach, where, we'll have 4 views of this, 5 views of this. And one of those views might take some value, right? And one of the key pieces of value that you've brought to the table that we've embraced is the EOS system, right? The traction system. So if you're listening to this, buy EOS, the book, buy Traction, the book, buy Rocket Fuel, the book. It's all a family of books talking about traction, right? Or the EOS system, an entrepreneurial operating system. And we are clearly in the visionary role, and you're in the operator role. And that has made things far easier for me to compartmentalize, right? It's made it far easier for us to help people when they call us for help, right? And that's part of what we're doing, is just documenting this whole thing, talking for an hour and running through it. So if you're listening to this, go buy that book. If you're a visionary, you got to find an operator. If you're an operator, you got to find a visionary. If you're not operating in an ecosystem with some sort of structure, and I've been there, Godspeed, man. That is gnarly. That is chaos, of which I've lived in, right? And even though there's some chaos, it's controlled chaos, right? It's pragmatic chaos. And frankly, it's working, right? We are stabilizing two companies at the same time. They are little by little, every day we're getting shots on goal. They're growing, they're making money, they're being of service. We add to our happy client list every single week, sometimes every day, but certainly every single week, for both deals. So that's why we're doing this. I'm stoked you're on this journey with me. It's fun. We laugh our asses off. And sometimes I hoot and holler, yell and scream, get a little grouchy. You're a little more calm, right? But I'm just a brown belt. You're a black belt. So I could still squirm a little more. But yeah, man, this is fun. And we're going to keep doing it. Any final words of wisdom, Mr. Straub, Mr. Operator?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that we are continually reminded of is that if you're gonna rely on your willpower, on your motivation, on your on just the grit of like grinding through it every day, you're gonna kind of run out. You have to put systems in place. You have to delegate. You have to automate. You cannot do everything in your business. You either have to find other people or other processes or something else, because otherwise you just have a job. You just have a job that you happen to also own, but there's no chance at freedom. And you have to do it with the right people, and you have to set them up for success. You can't just abdicate all your responsibility and say, well, I hope you do a good job for me. That's not what it means. But specifically with SBM, like we've put this in place so that we don't have to be putting our, recording our own videos all the time and posting them all the time. We recognize the value of it, and we're stoked to share the journey. It's not like I don't like having these conversations with you, but I don't like sitting down and recording just myself, once a day for 10 minutes, because then I'm going through all this analysis paralysis on what should I post and stuff. So just, do the thing, record it, put it online. It will help some people. It's not going to be everything for everyone, and that's okay. But we believe that these videos will be of service to people. Again, if you are in a similar industry, if you're a little ahead or a little behind us, reach out. We love talking about this stuff. You want to come on our podcast? Great. We'd love to hear what you're up to, and I'm sure we'll be able to pick your brain for some insights too. But mostly I'm just grateful for anybody who's listening to this, who cares about it, who've reached out, who's helped us. Means a lot. Thank you.
Amen to that. Well, it's time for us to go back to work.
Yeah.
Till next time, my friend.
Thanks, Chris. See ya.